Okay. Yeah, hello to all. I'm Pawan Kumar Naik, working in Tokyo University of Science as assistant professor and in National Institute of Advanced Industrial Science and Technology, which is also called AIST, Tsukuba, as researcher. And meanwhile, for the students, if you have some questions or something, in between, you can mail me after this talk also. Okay, here I have given my email ID. So today I'm going to talk about the superconductivity, and the title of the talk is Introduction to Superconductivity and Recent Developments. So I will talk the recent developments in mainly on making the superconductivity for the magnetic applications. So using these superconductors, we generate a Tesla scale magnetic field. So how do we do that? So what we do in our research laboratories and all, we'll discuss. Yeah, this is my outline of the presentation. So I'll briefly introduce the superconductivity and this field for the sake of students, bachelor and masters are there. So for the, and I'll after that I'll discuss the problems existing in this field, especially on REBCO materials, which is one of the best studied material in superconductivity history. And after that, I will talk about the growth of single grain bulk GDDY-BCO superconductors and oh, sorry, and how we grow these bulk samples in laboratory and how we test it and what we do it. And after that, recently I developed a novel technique of pre-treating this white 211 paste for fabricating such high quality large YBCO single grain superconductors. So I will introduce to you this idea and what we did so far. And also I am working on other types of superconductors also, such as MgB2 superconductor and YBCO phone superconductors, collaborating with different groups. So I will introduce these topics also slightly. Yeah, let us start. What is superconductivity? Okay, so certain materials, if you cool down to certain temperature, they exhibit some special properties such as zero electrical resistance and perfect diamagnetism. For example, here, can you see my cursor, right? Hello?
It's okay, you can go
Yeah,
ahead.
you can see my cursor, right? Yeah, okay. So when you, for example, here I'm showing the how it goes as resistance. When you cool, for example, a material, when you're cooling and suddenly at certain temperature, which is called a critical temperature, so it loses its all resistance and becomes zero resistance below this temperature. And after that, in this situation, I mean, within this range of temperature and within this state, if you allow passing a magnetic field, it do not allow, so which shows perfect diamagnetism, which inside this material the magnetic field is zero. And here I am showing the critical nature of superconducting any superconducting material. So are there any limitation for any superconductor? Yes, there are certain limitations. Okay, there are majorly there are three types of parameters which decides the superconducting strength. One is critical temperature, okay, this point, and critical current density and critical magnetic field. So below this, within this area, it will, the material will act as superconductor. Beyond these points, so it acts as normal material, no superconductivity. Superconductivity will be killed beyond these points. Okay, so we need to be careful of these values. For each and every material, these values are different. So if you see the, what is the difference between the perfect conductor and superconductor? For example, if you prepare a very good conductor, it may show almost, not exactly zero, but almost zero resistance. But what is the difference between superconductor and perfect conductor? Here I am showing actually. So the difference is between field cooling and zero field cooling. Okay, so the difference, you can see field cooling and this is zero field cooling, and this is field cooling. The difference between ZFC and FC is very different. Whereas in the case of conductor, whereas in the case of superconductor, the end states, in the case of ZFC and FC, field cooling states are not different. In both the states, magnetic field will be expelled from the material. Okay, so and researcher also did some work. How close is the zero resistance actually, and how much time it can sustain this zero resistance state. So what they did is they created a superconducting ring and they applied some current and they measured almost 2.5 years this its resistance, and they found that almost these 2.5 years it did not reduce reduce this current actually, which means that R equals to 0 and it maintained throughout this time. And also we measured that this resistance, superconducting resistance, is almost 10 power minus 28 ohm meter, which is 18 order of good conductor of copper actually. And these are the applications of superconductors. And there are various types of superconductors, for example, bulk, wires, and thin films, and many variations. And I'm comparing all material applications here. So one is flywheel energy for energy storage. So they store, still this research is going on. This application is not yet fulfilled, successful. And maglev train is one more superconductor application, good application in Japan. I think in 2027 this maglev train will be running actually, so coming for useful for the society. And okay, and power cables, because of zero resistance we can transfer electricity without any loss. And we can use bulk magnets in various medical applications such as MRI, to use for scanning our body and all. And see, this is my previous group, Professor Murakami. They created a world record magnetic field of 17 Tesla 29 Kelvin using a small sample. For example, this is the small sample of 1 inch, which created 17 Tesla magnet at 29 Kelvin. This was the world record at that time. And we also, this is also our group work, which is created superconducting filters, cylinders, which use as magnetic field shielding actually. So such these kind of applications are many using this superconductors. Okay, you may know actually already this topic, but I just wanted to repeat. So depending on the response to the applied field, these superconductors are classified in two types, type 1 and type 2. So what is the difference between type 1 and type 2? So type 1 is the critical magnetic field will be only one actually, so which is Hc. Only one critical magnetic field will be there for type 1 superconducting material, and this value is very small, less than 0.1 Tesla. So these, in this classification, only few elements and few materials will be there. Whereas in type 2 superconductor, so there are, from this picture it is clear that there are two critical fields, Hc1 and Hc2. Okay, sorry, so my mouse is too fast. Okay, better to use. Okay, and this Hc2, even though Hc1 is smaller, Hc2 is very large. For example, for a YbCO superconducting material, Hc2 value is 150 Tesla, which means that we can create such high magnetic field using this material. These type 2 materials. So I will show you in my next slide what are these materials actually. So as I said, few elements also show superconductivity, such as mercury, iridium, niobium, such kind of things. So these are all classified as type 1 superconductors, and complex alloys and ceramics are these actually which have high Tc. These are classified as type 2 material, type 2 superconducting material. So here we can see the evolution of superconducting materials with time to time. Right now, the highest Tc at ambient temperature is around 120 Kelvin. At if you apply higher and higher pressure, loads, pressure, so you can. So some groups have achieved almost room temperature superconductivity, but at very high pressure. And here I am showing the field versus temperature plane useful for the magnetic material superconductors. So here x-axis is temperature and y-axis is field. Okay, as the temperature decrease, only ReBCO materials are sustaining up to high fields. You can see up to liquid nitrogen temperature, for example, 77 Kelvin. So we can at least create up to 10 Tesla magnet field. Therefore, so my research was concentrated on, no, we are studying more on ReBCO materials due to this high high trapping ability of these materials. Okay, so ReBCO, actually here it is given formula. ReBCO means Re, or actually what, any rare earth, actually any rare earth element, or yttrium actually. Okay, ReBa2Cu3O7 minus HF. Actually, this is 1, 2, 3. We call 1, 2, 3, which is superconducting. So, how do we produce this material? I am comparing here actually. So, for this, if you need more information, this is my paper. So you can go through, and we can discuss later actually after. And how do we produce this material? How do we grow? How do we make this material? I'm comparing here actually. Generally, there are three different methods. One is sintering, and second one is melt growth, and recently developed is infiltration growth method. In sintering method, what we do is we mix the raw compounds, and we heat to below its melting point. Okay, below melting point, so that it do not melt and react actually. It just, so sintering method, right? And the final material compound will be superconductor, and here you can see that there are many grains. The microstructure of the typical microstructure of this sample is shown here. Okay, so you can see that there are many grains actually, so which are oriented in different directions. Okay, see this is one grain, this is one grain. So there are different grains are oriented in different directions. Okay, so even though TC is good, TC is high, but the problem is that the critical current density, which is very important for developing any application, so is very low because of grain boundary problem. So if you determine the critical current density JC of particular grain, of the, it will be of the order of 10 power 5 to 10 power 6 ampere per centimeter square. But if you determine the JC of the whole bulk, it will be almost of the order of 10 power 2 because of grain boundary. See, at the grain boundary, even though JC is high in this grain, at the grain boundary, due to weak link problem, suddenly drops to almost zero. Then overall bulk will be lower. So to overcome this grain boundary problem, researchers have developed another method called melt growth. In this method, what they did is they prepared 1, 2, 3. Here I'm calling as 211. So what is 211? Here I am given 211, which is defined as Y2Ba1Cu1O5. Okay, which is non-superconducting phase. Okay, so I will tell you why these 211 are needed. Okay, I'll explain you. Yeah, okay, so in melt growth, what they do is they start with 1, 2, 3, and or with addition of 211, and they heat it to above melting point of each phase. Okay, for example, here I'm comparing the phase diagram of this typical YBCO and NDBCO, which are the lowest two different materials. So if you see, for example, this solid lines are for YBCO and dotted lines are for NDBCO. So typically the Y123 will start melting around 1000 degrees Celsius. Okay, above which this 123 phase will become 211 plus liquid. Here I am clearly defined what is 211. Okay, Y211, and when you cool down, okay, after heating, when you cool down, what happens when you heat above the melting point of its material? This phase 1, 2, 3 will decomposes to Y211 plus some kind of liquid, which is the composition is given here, BaCuO2 plus CuO. This is called liquid phase. Okay, in this state, the material will be 211, which is solid phase, and liquid phase of barium copper oxide. And after heating to high temperature, when you cool down, then this 211 plus liquid phase recombine and peritectically react and form again 1, 2, 3. This is what the reaction occurs in this 1, 2, 3 ReBCO compounds. Okay, so when you melt, when you heat your sample or your pellet above melting point, what happens? It melts and forms some kind of liquid and 2-on-1. I'm showing here green as 2-on-1 because 2-on-1s are in green color generally. And when you cool through TP to certain temperature range, then it reacts and forms a continuous bulk sample. Okay, the final microstructure looks like this. Okay, and the real microstructure is shown here. If you compare the microstructure of sintered sample and melt grown sample, you can see very clearly that large grains are formed. See, this is one grain actually, so it is continuously formed actually. Okay, there are large grain, there is not so much of grain boundary problem under. Okay, and due to which JC is sustained very high compared to sintered sample. So typical JC means critical current density of these materials. Melt grown samples are of the order of 10 power 5. But the problem is in this material is that so you can see very clear grain boundary actually. So between very large grain, see, and right here like this. So this is not good. Even though JC is very high at zero field, at high fields JC is rapidly decreasing because of these macro defects. So to overcome these problems, people have developed infiltration growth method. If you see the figure, it is very clear that in melt growth method we start with one pellet, everything we mix and heat, whereas in infiltration growth method we start with two different pellets. For example, this one green one is 2-on-1 pellet only, and this is called liquid phase. This liquid phase may be 1, 2, 3 plus some other barium copper oxide. There are many various liquid phases are there. Typically we use Y123 plus added with barium copper oxide. Okay, and when I heat this sample assembly above this melting point of this compound, what happens? This liquid phase Y123 phase or liquid phase will melt and become liquid. Okay, and these liquids will flow to top pellet, this 2-on-1 pellet, through capillary forces. Okay, so liquid phases will flow to top of the pellet homogeneously, and when you cool down and reaction, this peritectic reaction will occur between Y211 and liquid phase, right? So you have in top pellet you have Y211 and liquid phases are supplied from the bottom pellet, and when you cool down, this peritectic reaction will occur in between these two phases and forms Y211. Okay, and the typical microstructure are shown here. If you see, there is no such grain boundaries. I mean, large without any macro defect, you can see very nice microstructure we have got from in this infiltration growth processed materials. Therefore, so we have recently many groups have started researching on this in this method. Okay, and one more topic is, why do we need, see, single grain? See here, it is, there is no grain boundary. It is, we call single grain whole bulk sample. We grow up to 40 millimeter, I mean nearly 4 centimeter sample we grow with a single grain domain. But why do we need such a single grain? As I shown here in microstructure of sintered material, if you have several grains, the superconducting loop, current loop of this material will be, for example, in this sample, this is not single grain. Actually, there are many grains. For example, this is one grain, this is one grain, one more. So there are several grains. So if you apply some field or apply current for this material, what happens is the super currents will loops which which decide the superconducting strength will be very small. For example, this is one, this is one, this is one. So the average will be very low. Okay, so whereas if it is single grain, how do we see? So how do we identify whether it is single grain or not? See, you can see nice growth, right? Like this. Okay, so kind of X actually. So we see this kind of pattern, and which is grown up to bottom. Actually, it should be grown bottom also. Then the superconductor will grow very large, complete in single, and the superconducting, it will carry large current loops and gives large JC actually. Okay. Yeah. Now onwards, I will talk about our work. So this is one topic. I'm talking about GD-DY-BCO superconductor. For the initially, what we did is, okay, so I am missing one slide here. Okay, no problem. Yeah, okay. So this JC, critical current density parameter, is not constant actually. It is not intrinsic. Okay, so we can improve or modify depending on synthesis procedures. For example, you can add various dopants or change experimental conditions and all, and you can increase JC. Okay, as the JC increases, your ability, no, your means your superconductor ability to generate, not generate, maybe hold the magnetic field larger and larger. Okay, so for example, to improve the JC of this GD-BCO superconductor, what we did is we added several content of amounts of dysprosium in the form of dy2o3. Okay, and we added 0 weight percent to 40 weight percent, and you can see that the X-ray diffraction. This is actually, these are the X-ray diffraction patterns of final samples. You can see that all samples are showing 00L Bragg peaks, which shows that this is nearly a quasi single crystal. Why I am calling as quasi single crystal? Because it is not single phase. There are another phase also, which is I call Y211. Yeah, here I forgot to mention in this microstructure. So the dark one is Y123, which is superconducting, and this spherical and circular one, spherical and brighter one are called 211 phase, and these are non-superconducting. It is nothing to do with superconductivity, but these inclusions, these secondary phases are very important for your improving JC. Okay, so depending on this inclusion size, your JC varies. So as the 2-in-1 size decreases, smaller and smaller, your JC will be higher and higher. Also, we can include many other dopants and foreign elements which are not reacting and generating different phases, intermediate phases, will be improved your JC. Okay, so that is why to improve the JC of GD-BCO superconductors, we added dysprosium, and we successfully got pure phases of this without any reaction. You can see very clearly. And here I am showing the transition temperature, superconducting transition temperature of these samples. And we observed that all superconductors are shown transition from normal to superconductor around 92 Kelvin, all superconductors. So there is no degradation of with this addition. So here I am showing the JC versus field. JC versus field. Actually, this plot, I'm not sure whether it may look small or not. Okay, so I'm comparing at different temperatures. So this JC of different samples with a different amount of dysprosium are determined at different temperature. For example, this is at 77 Kelvin, which is the boiling point of liquid nitrogen, and this is 70 Kelvin and 60 Kelvin. As the temperature decreases, the JC value increases. Okay, and we observed that addition of 20 weight percent of dysprosium oxide to GD-BCO is optimal, which showed superior JC performance up to very high field, high magnetic field. Okay, so GD-DY20, which is I'm calling as GD-DY20. Okay, and if you want to know more about this, for every slide I'm giving my paper journal address here, actually bottom in red color, so you can go through it actually. So if you have some query, you can mail me, we can discuss. Yeah, okay. So after that, after optimizing the dysprosium content in GDBCO, we want to study and we want to grow larger and larger size sample, right? To grow such kind of larger size sample, we need to know which temperature is required. I mean, which temperature is good for growth actually, which, that is called growth temperature. So to know the growth temperature, what we did is we put this sample assembly, see, this sample assembly actually, so two pellets, 211 and liquid phase at different temperature. For example, this sample was kept at 1032 degrees Celsius for several hours. Like for example, I think 12 hours. So we kept the sample assembly at 1032 degrees Celsius. You can see that there is no growth at all. It is just, there is no shiny phase and there is no growth at all. And whereas in the sample where we kept at 1030 degrees Celsius, you can see small shiny phase is observed. And as we decrease the temperature, so this area of shiny phase, which is grown area, is increased. And we observe that again, when we kept at 1112 degrees, there is no growth again. So we can, with this, we can understand that the growth starts at around 1030 degrees Celsius and completes 1010 degrees Celsius. So based on this result, what we do is we cool, slow cooling. Actually, to grow a single grain, we need to facilitate a slow cooling, right? So with this experiment, we come to know that which temperature range, which is the temperature window is good for growing such a good large size sample. So we determine that this is the temperature window. And if you see, and yeah, TGDTA, so thermogravimetry differential thermal analysis also shows that this is the best temperature range for growth. And these are the microstructure of the samples, of various samples which are kept at isothermally kept at different temperature. Okay. And we observe that as the temperature decreases from high temperature, I mean 1030 to below, we observe that the 211 phase size is decreasing. You can see very clearly these white ones are 211s, the spherical ones are 211 particles actually. Okay. And so this is because as the temperature cooling down from top to bottom, I mean from high temperature to low temperature, what happens is the peritectic reaction rate increases. That is why the consumed, the liquid phase reacts with 211 increases. That is why we found that the 211 size is decreasing. Okay, and these are the elemental analysis of few samples, maybe 1030 sample and 1021 sample. Okay, we observed that in 1030 sample, high temperature sample, we observed that GD and DY, we started with GD211 and dysprosium particles, right, separately actually. Whereas when we kept at 1030 degrees Celsius, what happened is this GD211 react with the dysprosium oxide and forming a kind of GD-DY211. You can see very clearly here that in spherical particles, which are 211 particles, GD is also very high and dysprosium also very high. Okay, so with this we confirm that dysprosium is reacting with 211 and forming a GD-DY211. And still people have not, I mean even we are also working right now, what is the effect of such kind of mixed rare earth. These GD and dysprosium and many other samarium all are rare earths, right? So what is the effect of mixed rare earth 211 on this flux spinning, which is called, I mean, physical properties actually. Still we are researching about this. And if you see 1021, it is very clear that some particles do not have dysprosium, some particles do not have GD actually. So you can see very clear. Whereas here, in each particle, GD and dysprosium, both the elements are present. Whereas in 1021 particle, I mean low temperature process sample, some 211 particles are we couldn't find. In some 211 particles we couldn't find dysprosium, and some 211 particles we couldn't find GD, which means that the reaction mechanism is very different. So to know more, we did elemental line scan analysis on this sample GD, I mean 1021 sample, which shows that see here the GD1 is this curve and dysprosium is this curve. So I draw a line through Y123 matrix and allow through this 211 particle and again 123 matrix. Okay, when I touch this 211 particle, you can see that gadolinium is more and more. Okay, and in the middle, maybe here middle, it is almost gadolinium, and dysprosium. If you see dysprosium curve, initially at the periphery of the 211 particle, dysprosium is available. Because of this hump, you can see very clearly that dysprosium is present. But whereas if you reach at the mid of the particle, there is no dysprosium. You can see almost zero, which means that dysprosium is reacted only on the surface only at low temperature. Okay, at high temperature, maybe dysprosium is reacting and it is showing on the surface thoroughly. But when it is slow cooling, all dysprosium on the surface is removing by peritectic reaction and incorporating in the matrix, which gives us composition fluctuation. Okay, and also we observed. Oh, sorry, my mark. Okay, okay. So if you see the microstructure, and we also observe sudden stopping, okay, of the growth because of sudden quenching, right? What we did is from this temperature we suddenly stop. Isothermal means what we do is we keep at certain temperature and suddenly quench in liquid nitrogen. Okay, so due to suddenly stopping or suddenly quenching from very high temperature, so we also observe sudden stop of the growth. You can see very clearly. If it is continued, so the 211 particle would have been very small. Okay, even though we with this, okay, so even though we followed nice temperature profile and everything, we could not grow a single grain in this method. So you can see that there are many satellite grains, 1, 2, 3, there are many. Okay, so and to understand this why it is not grown, so we varied the liquid phase mass actually. So in previous work we used the 2-1-1 and liquid phase ratio of 1:1 only. So that is why what we understand is that from bottom pellet liquid phases are not pumping to 2-1-1 sufficiently. So to avail more and more or abundant or enough amount of liquid phases, what we did is we varied the liquid phase amount in 2-1-1 with respect to 2-1-1. 1:1, 1:1.2, 1:1.3, 1 is to up to 1:1.5. What we observe is 1:1.4 is the 2-1-1 is with respect to liquid phase of 1:1.4 is efficient, which resulted full growth. And these are certain pictures to show you how it involves. Sometimes failure occurs because of liquid phase collapse. See, for example, here the bottom pellet liquid phase collapsed due to pressure, actually, not inhomogeneous pressure. So when we make pellet, if you applied inhomogeneous load or pressure, what happens is when it melted, what happens at the high temperature, when you melt it, this liquid phase source will be of the some liquid and some solid, right? So due to which it is collapsed completely. So this is one experiment. So there will be, if you want to know more about this story, so you can read this paper, my paper. And we observed that so here I'm comparing the microstructure of 1:1 sample and 1:1.4 sample. You can see very clearly that the 2:1 size of 1:1, I mean 1 ratio and 1.4 ratio are very different. So 1.4 sample gave very fine size, small size 2:1 particles, due to which the JC of these samples are okay. You can, yeah, here I'm compared actually nicely. The JC of 1:1.4 sample is very high. Okay, and TC did not change much actually. And also here I'm comparing the 2:1 particle size, and if you see, as the liquid phase amount increase, the 2:1 size is decreasing, and we observe that, yeah, this microstructures also clearly states this. And with increasing liquid phase source, we successfully grow a large sized single grain material. You can see that in 1:1 sample, due to insufficient liquid phase infiltration, so the growth has not completed. So you can see up to this much area only it is grown, whereas when we supplied enough amount of liquid phase, then we observed very, I mean, nice growth, completely grown. So you can see X like kind of pattern very clearly. And these are the trapped field measurement, which means that trapped field value will tell you how much your sample, your material can hold the magnetic field, generate magnetic field, typically saying. Okay, and if you see the trapped field value of this material, it is 0.13 Tesla at 77 Kelvin, and whereas this value, this sample trapped a 0.22 Tesla at 77 Kelvin. And here again I am showing the microstructure is very homogeneous with fine size, smaller size 2:1 in the matrix, due to which the JC of this sample is sustained up to very high large fields. And we improved the JC value at zero field on 77 Kelvin from 43 kiloampere per centimeter square to 64 kiloampere per centimeter square by just changing the liquid phase. Okay, to improve further JC, what we did is in GD DYBCO, which means the 20% of dy addition to GDBCO superconductor, we further added platinum and ceria. This platinum and ceria are considered as grain refining agents. Okay, when you add this platinum and ceria, these allow to refine, to further make smaller and smaller 2:1 particles. Okay, so if you see here, without any addition of these two compounds, okay, we added without any addition sample and only platinum added sample and platinum and ceria added sample. Actually, three samples we are comparing here. If you see, when we added both platinum and ceria, we have observed very small sized particles at the order of 100 nanometer sized particles. You can see very clearly here. So these spherical ones are 2:1 embedded in Y123 matrix. So you can see that by adding these grain refining agents of platinum and ceria, we successfully reduce the 2:1 size to nanometer, which are very much needed. Okay, and due to which your JC is improved from 53 kiloampere to 130, nearly 130 kiloampere per centimeter square at 77 Kelvin. And if you compare the JC performance at high fields, for example, 2.2 Tesla, if you compare the JC performance at 2.2 Tesla of platinum and ceria added sample, so it is over 70 kiloampere per centimeter square, which is the recorded value in this field range actually. Okay, and we also check the spatial distribution actually. Okay, spatial distribution means due to complex growth, the microstructure may be different at different regions, right? So we need to confirm, is it homogeneous throughout the sample or no. So to confirm this, what we did is we collected several pieces in C axis and AB axis. Okay, A axis, several regions. We studied the microstructure and JC. Okay, I'm showing here A, B, C, D, E panels in S1, ST, and SM, and SB, and ST1 and ST2. You can see that it's almost nearly homogeneous in all the regions except at the bottom. Actually, in the bottom region only we observe small amount of larger size 211 particles, due to which JC performance of this bottom, okay, seed bottom, okay, bottom piece is slightly inferior compared to other regions. Otherwise it's nearly homogeneous. This is the specialty of IG processor actually. And okay, next topic is recently, now I hope you understand that 211 particles are very important in improving the JC. The size of the 211 should be as small as it is, so that your JC will go as high as. Okay, so what we thought is, if we use fine size 211 in growth itself, because in previous studies what we do is we just prepare 211 particles, 211 powders in sintering method or chemical method and all, we directly use for growth actually. So what we thought is, if we can pre-treat, if we can make these particles, these Y211 particles smaller and smaller before growth, what happens? Let us see. Okay, so to make smaller and smaller these particles, so I proposed to use ultrasonic energy. You may, in every laboratory you may have a small ultrasonic machine, right, instrument to clean your vessels or your sample holders or something, right? You may know. But here I used high power ultrasonic instrument. Okay, I'll explain you, okay, later, what is the high power and all. Okay, so the mechanism is shown here. So we start, the typical 211 particles will be like this actually. So they will be agglomerated and of the order of micron size. When I mix these 211 particles in some liquid medium and ultrasonicate it with for example, up to now I used 300 watt energy. Okay, up to 300 watt energy I applied, I radiated with this ultrasonic radiation to these particles through some medium. For example, I used ethanol medium for this work. So when we observe the microstructure of these materials, so we found that very sharp edge compared to spherical one and agglomerated one. Okay, very sharp edges, and these sharp edges are very important in the growth actually, because they will be consumed and the reaction rate will be very high. And we used these Y211 particle in growth, and we nicely grown single crystals, and we found very small 211 particles. Okay, so these are the mechanism we expected actually. And finally we achieved. Okay, when, see, this is without applying any ultrasonication, you can see it is agglomerated and very large size, almost of the order of few microns, up to 5 micron. When we apply 100 volt 100 watt energy, you can see that some of the particles are divided. If you apply, when you apply 200 watt, it is more divided. And when we apply 300 watt for 10 minutes, actually these are all experiments are done for 10 minutes. 10 minutes we allow to bombard our liquid medium, okay, with powder particle. And as we increase the power, we observe that these particles are isolated, separated. Okay, but this is not enough for my assumption is to create such kind of sharp edges, right? So to create sharp edges, what we did is 300 watt we applied several, okay, several time durations. For example, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, and 60 minutes. If you see at 30 minutes, so they are nicely divided, but sharp edges are not created. When we applied for 40 minutes, we observed sharp edges like this at several regions. And when we applied 60 minutes, there are many, it's crushed like anything. Okay, we have observed these powder particles are crushed too much. And using these 211 particles 211 powders, we grown several single grain materials. So you can see all single grain compounds. Okay, and if you see the microstructure, as the ultrasonic power increased, the 211 size decreased. See here, these are the 211 particles, spherical ones are okay. And as you increase the time duration, the size of the 211 are decreased. And here I am comparing the physical properties of these samples. So if you see, as the 45 minutes applied ultrasonicated sample is the best sample in which now we observed very high JC. For example, without any ultrasonication, the JC value at 77 Kelvin is around 45 kiloampere centimeter square, whereas in 45-minute ultrasonicated sample we observed 80 kiloamperes per centimeter square value, which is almost double value. And also we observed the trapped field, also we also observed almost double. Okay, so you can see nice patterns here, and we successfully improved the trapped field and JC of this sample by utilizing new method. But there are still many things have to be done actually. So we are yet to do many experiments to study the growth and many other materials. Okay, now, okay, I have 15 more minutes. Okay, so I'll give you 10 minutes for discussion. Okay, so now I'll introduce some other topics also. Okay, so there are several, as I shown in my previous slide, there are many types of superconducting materials. So my research, no, my research is aimed on REBCO majorly, but I am also working on different materials, collaborating with different groups. Okay, so now I'm introducing MgB2 superconductor. So the TC of this material is around 38 Kelvin actually, so slightly lower. But what is the specialty of this material is that this material you can just mix and press, that's it, no growth, nothing. Okay, so whatever size you want, disc or whatever shape you want, you can prepare nicely. Okay, so no growth, right? So it is very simple method. That is why many groups are still working on MgB2 superconducting material. What we do is we just mix in the glow box in inert atmosphere and press the pellet and heat it. That's it, your superconductor is ready. Okay, and one of our PhD student is working on this topic, and he tried. I just wanted to introduce his recent results. So what he did is he collected. So here also, in every material, you may know that in every material, the performance can be improved by doping suitable candidates, right? So in MgB2, carbon addition is considered as good flux spinning actually. Okay, so if you add carbon in, then luckily the TC is not degraded much. Okay, 6 hours. Yeah, okay, I'll go. Okay, so the TC is not degraded much if you add carbon, not beyond, I mean, if you add carbon certain amount, okay, little amount, small amount, then your TC will not be degraded. But if you add carbon content too much beyond certain limit, your TC degrades very low. Okay, so to considering that, many groups are adding diamond particles and other carbon sources, but our student, what he did is he collected charcoal. Charcoal means you may know actually, so it's kind of coal. Okay, he collected charcoal, which is freely available, and it's very economically also it's very viable. And he collected charcoal and added several amounts, and we observed that it is very efficient in improving the JC. And he improved, I mean, this MgB2 sample, 0.4 weight% of charcoal addition showed very high JC. And here, for example, for comparing the result, I'm also comparing the nano diamond. Okay, the same group also worked with addition of nano diamond. If you compare these results, so charcoal addition is very effective and without compromising on the TC. Okay, you can see that we added very small amount of 0.4 0.18% up to, okay, and due to that your TC is not degraded much. Okay, our so and student also are working on spark plasma sintering. Okay, spark plasma sintering. Okay, here I did not put the picture. Okay, if you just sinter material, there will be the density, the densification value of the normal sintered material will be of the order of 60%. Okay, so to improve the densification, what we did is we used a spark plasma sintering process by which we can send current and also apply load and simultaneously sinter using current actually, due to which we can increase the relative density of the order of nearly 90%. Okay, and the JC, you know, see here I am comparing. So by changing few parameters, few experimental parameters, we achieved relative density of 97%, and due to which JC also without any dopant we achieved nearly 500 kiloampere per centimeter square at 20 Kelvin. And these are our main target actually. So this is just to method to prepare the sample. Our main target in this is to study and develop this for as a magnet. Okay, what we do is prepare the best, I mean good MgBT pellets using SPS, spark plasma sintering technique, and okay, and drill the holes and to apply. Yeah, here why do we want to drill the hole means these MgB2 materials exhibit flux jump because of carrying very high JCs. So it creates some heat around the material, I mean inside the material also, due to which your flux jumps suddenly and comes to zero because of generating high heat. Okay, to stop the heat flow inside the material, what we want to do is we want to drill the hole like this, many, and insert or create vacuum, or many ideas are there. I just wanted to share with you so that you'll be okay interested in this topic also. And we want to drill hole and insert certain material which can stop this heat flow. Okay, so that there will be no collapse of, I mean no flux jump during applying very high fields. Okay, yeah, this is what actually our aim. So we want to drill many holes and insert few titan, for example titanium or such kind of materials, to stop the heat flow inside the material when we apply large fields. Okay, and this is another topic. Okay, so first topic I talked on the bulk sample, right? And second topic is MgB2 also bulk, and another form of the superconductor which we are interested in currently working is foams. Okay, for so if you see the bulk sample weight is too much, right, because of high density. So the bulk sample weight is too much. For example, if you want to apply superconducting magnets inside the spacecraft, you know, right, how value it is in regards weight actually. So we proposed these YBCO superconducting YBCO foam superconductors for space applications. Okay, so what we do is we start with 211. You can see green color, right? This is 211, and put it, you know, prepared in a, we prepare Y211 slurry and immerse in a foam sample. Okay, there are many types of foams are available like metallic and polymer or many. Okay, we take some skeleton of polymer or metallic and we immerse in Y211 slurry, and you will get like this. And we do IG processing, infiltration growth processing, to get this process, and we grow Y211 with Y123 YBCO superconductor like this. Okay, the microstructure will be like this. Okay, it is not continuous, but you will get porous structure like this, many porous. Okay, and what is the specialty of this superconductor is that if you have larger and larger sample to use this material for application, what happens, you need to cool this very long time because of large size, right? You need to cool very long time to cool homogeneously, whereas these materials are porous, right? When you supply coolant, it will glow easily, and cools material homogeneously very quickly. And also, if you want to stop, I mean, if you want to warm this sample, just stop it and warm simply, then it will warm immediately. Okay, so this material, this foam structures also can be used as switch, superconducting switch, right? Okay, such kind of applications we proposed, and the details are here actually. You can read more and more in these papers. And here you can see trapped field is very different compared to my previous. See, here for bulk sample, you can see only one curve, one cone, right? Because it is single grain. Okay. Whereas in foam structures, there are multiple superconductors separated by porosity, right? That is why there are many, the structure is very different. You can see many superconducting cones. Okay. So there are various types of superconducting materials. We are currently working bulk, sintered, and foams and like that. Okay. And these are my collaborator. Currently, we are working with many groups in Japan and other in Germany and Poland. All the groups here are my details, and I would like to thank all my students and collaborators. And currently, I'm working in. Okay. Sorry, I did not put my group. Okay, very good. And thank you very much for all your attention.